What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Dynamic Vision episode, I don't even know at this point, but we're talking about the Eagles and downtown Diamondbacks in a St. Louis series that was pretty exciting to say the least. So let's start with game one of this series. Now, if you look at this series and more into it, it was pretty windy on this day. So a lot of the pitchers kind of had some control issues, even Dallas to a point, but Jimmy Norp was feeling it a lot. He gave up 5 runs, which is not good, especially for him. He was having some control issues on the mound, and it started pretty much right away. It's something that I think most fans, and especially D-backs fans, haven't really seen from him give up this many runs just off of pure walks. So the question is, now looking at Jimmy Norp, what does he need to do to kind of get back in the groove of things after a slow start on the mound? And don't get me wrong, he's still hitting great. He's still one of the best players in the league, but that's something that he definitely needs to address. Now, you can also look at the rest of this D-backs team. I think they made amazing contact with the ball, especially going against a pitcher as good as Dallas Allen. They just kind of got the short end of the stick. Obviously, they started down 5 runs, which didn't help, but all of the Diamondbacks hitters were making contact with the ball, even if the Eagles fielding was kind of chewing them up and spitting them out. It didn't really matter. It's still a positive thing to see, and I think that's why the Diamondbacks were able to win this series overall. Now, looking at game 2 here, it was pretty much completely different from the game 1 that we saw in the series. Once again, I feel like Trackman was just not good in this series. He is still a rookie. He was still the 8th overall pick. It's the same thing I addressed in the last Eagles Dynamic Vision, but it's not looking super bright for him. He looks to have some control issues, but I will say that I think he was putting it in the strike zone more, but you know, I said it earlier, the D-backs hitters were hitting really well, and of course that isn't going to help, especially when you're in an out-of-state series and you have a rookie that has some subliminal experience. Norp and Pishka both had great games from the plate. It surely helped them out a lot, but let's address the elephant in the room, which is Jake Sullivan IV, who once again has an amazing series. He wins game 2, and spoiler, he also wins game 3. Also, something I want to mention is that Sullivan is 3-0 on the mound, while Norp is 0-3. Just let that sink in. Sullivan is 3-0 while Norp is 0-3. Now, I don't think, and I'm not saying that Sullivan is a better pitcher than Jimmy Norp, but it's something to be looked at, and I think that Sullivan is just one great performance away from getting that starting pitcher role on the Diamondbacks if Norp struggles again. He's the manager that will respect when he's not doing good and will throw other guys in there, especially if they have the ability to do better than him. Jimmy Norp doesn't really have an ego, so I don't see that becoming a problem for him. However, I don't think Sullivan should be their ace yet, even though he looked amazing in game 2. I really like the look of Sullivan on the mound, Jonah Heath at first, and Jimmy Norp at shortstop. The fielding there is just amazing. And even though they lost, I also like the way the Urquidy brothers were hitting, specifically Carson, as he put the ball in play multiple times. But it wasn't looking too good for Daniel Schultz, who just didn't really hit the ball too well this series. It wasn't looking amazing, and while I'm complaining, Dallas Allen didn't have his best game 2 either. Game 3 was primarily more of the same that we saw in game 2. It's just that the Eagles hitters started making more contact. They started seeing the ball better, and obviously there's some good hitters on that team, so Jake Sullivan started struggling more. I know Dallas wasn't hitting great, and that won't normally happen, but the Urquidy brothers were picking up the slack. And also, I like what I saw, obviously, from Carter Richard, who hit a really clutch home run against his former team, just after another Pishka home run, who had an amazing series. My one real takeaway from this game for the Eagles, though, is Daniel Schultz's decision to bench himself for Carson Urquidy. It ended up working out on a full count pitch, and that's great, but if it didn't, it would have looked bad on Daniel Schultz. You have to play yourself. You're the veteran, you have the experience, and that's no hate to Carson Urquidy. I'm not saying that he was playing bad or that he's a bad player, but taking yourself out of that situation to me just makes no sense, and it's the second time he's done it this year. And luckily, Jake Sullivan got out of it because he had a pretty bad final inning that luckily resulted in a win for the Diamondbacks. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're only about 80 subs away from 700, so I'm trying to get there, and peace.